And welcome back to another presentation for the Easy as Accounting software. I want to discuss in brief the accounts payable. If I click on accounts payable, naturally this is items you purchase on an account that someone gives you goods or services in advance. Okay, that's pretty basic stuff. Most of the time, however, if I purchase something on account, they're going to keep the records anyway, right? So what I'm doing at the end of the month is checking out my receipts or my purchase orders, whatever it is I've got that I've received from them, to make sure that what their figures judge with mine. I don't double up this, but if your business needs accounts payable and accounts receivable, definitely it's going to be advantageous for you. Okay, they've got a really simple process here. Accounts payable and accounts receivable is a completely separate entity in Easy as Accounting. It has nothing to do with the income, nothing to do with the sales taxes, anything like that. That whole area, this is a completely different entity in itself. The only times this has anything to do with it is if you elect to send a payments to the expenses or send income to income. That's the only time it interacts with it. So you can do whatever you want over here and it's not going to upset that side of it. We jump into the accounts payable. Here we go. I've got two dummy accounts set up. You can click here to set up a new account and enter it in. Currently Jack owes nothing. I owe nothing to Jack and I owe $268 to Partner Limited. If I jump into here, throughout the month I made these purchases and I entered this in. I know I owe that much. If you have a look down here, goods or services supplied, this is like the left side of the account, right side of the account, left side of the account, right side of the account. So left side is where I enter the goods I purchase, right side is when I make the payment. So at the end of the month, I get an invoice from this guy here, and he says, please pay. I just quickly whiz down the invoice and I tick off where I agree that the amounts on the invoice is exactly the amounts that I recorded that I purchased. If that's correct, I'm just going to put a little asterisk next to it to say, yep, I'm agreeing with that. I'm going to pay that item. So the invoice is there for $268. I'm going to jump over to this side of the account. I'm going to pay that invoice. Let's just make it the 9th of the 9th, 09. That's come up because see, I haven't got an incorrect thing in the date column, so it's coming up telling me I've got an error here. That's fair enough because I didn't do this right. 9th of the 9th, 09. Now I'm going to put pay invoice. Let's say it was invoice number 361, okay, or 364. And what was it? $268, I think it was. Let me just double check that. Yep, 268. So I'm going to pay $268. Now, this is the only time that the accounts payable will interact with anything. It's not touching, it's not seeing the expense accounts. All it's saying is if you want, you can send this money over to the expense now, or you can go over there and do it manually later. Your choice. I would do it now because naturally, why go and do it manually later? I can put it in now. 268, 268. Yep, I had GST was included in that, sales tax. Click OK, complete the transaction, and it's done. Off it goes. It doesn't even register here that it was sent over there. It has nothing else to do with it. It's already done, already paid, and off it goes. I'm going to exit out of here. I'm going to show you where that is. See, it currently says now we owe nothing. I'm going to jump over here to the expenses, and I'm going to let you see that if I click accounts payable, there's the amount here. This is doubled up, sorry folks, because I was mucking around with that earlier, and I deleted the transaction in the accounts payable, but I didn't delete it from here. So remember, as I said before, one has nothing to do with the other. What I did earlier was this, and I'm going to show you a complete example again. I'm going to jump back into accounts payable, and I'm going to delete what I just did. I'm going to jump over here. I'm going to delete this payment out of here. Because I deleted it here, it's not going to delete it out of the expenses because that has nothing to do with the expenses. I come into the expenses, I'm going to have to delete it from here myself. You want to come in here and you want to delete something from the account side of it because it's registering of sales tax and that. You have to do it manually. You have to know that you chose to do that, no one else. If you haven't paid that amount, if you voided the check or whatever, come back in here, just delete it. See, now it's deleting it. Now it's deleting it. And now we're back to square one. So once you pay a check, why would you change it for? I got no idea. Okay, that's the standard method of doing accounts payable. There is, if we go to the payable screen here, there is a setup icon which we can change it to what is called the audit method. If I click this, See, now it says audit method in use. Click this, it says the standard methods in use. Click this, now the audit method in use. So I can come down the list and I can say, right, I agree with that, I agree with that, I agree with that, but I don't agree with this. Maybe I say I owe 55 and they say I owe 75, right? Now if I go to the right side of the account, it's automatically put this over here for me. See that? Okay? It's put over the ones I agree. So the audit method just takes it one step further. But with the audit method, you have to do things individually. You can't pay the whole of the amount that you're paying. If I come over here and it's invoice number 465 that I'm paying, you'll notice that once I did that, entered that invoice in, it put the number up here. I'll come back to that in a second. If today's date I'm paying this, you watch what happens. It's going to bring this screen up. So it's going to pop it up every time for every entry. For every entry we have to send it over individually to the accounts payable. You'd think, wow, that is a lot of work and a lot of effort. Yes, it is, but those people who use it find it marvelous. Now, see this here? Every time you do this, it's going to be such a drag to have to remember that amount. But because we're using the audit method, if I click Coke, I can get the amount. It gets that actual amount from the line for you. Click OK, and off it goes. Okay, so it's not that bad. So now let's try and see how quickly we can do it. It's going to remember the name. So we know that if I double click on this spot, it grabs that. It knows that that's the invoice for paying. Okay? It knows this is the date. It's grabbed the date. Right? Coke, get the amount. There is GST on it. Click OK. Right, so it is that quick. You see it here. I didn't care what I was pressing. I'm just collecting anything from this just to show you. Okay, get the amount. Okay, off it goes. So, whilst it takes a little bit extra, we've heard great feedback from some of the guys who do use it, where they've been able to challenge the suppliers and prove to them on many occasions when they've paid stuff that it's been paid for. Because what happens is this: because you've selected this individually, I can exit out of this and I can go into that's the challenge. If I exit out of this and I go into my expenses, they might send out an invoice next month, right? I can click accounts payable now, and now each individual entry is here, okay? And we can see these amounts, right? And they might turn around and say, you owe us for a particular item last month of whatever. And you will know by looking at this, you have a quick idea. If they say you didn't pay, there's 135, because you know how sometimes you get an invoice, I've seen it. They'll give you an invoice and they will include an item that you've already had an invoice the month before. They will include it on the next month as well. And you're going, hang on a minute, they're doubling up. Their records are wrong, mine's correct. And so you get a bit of a cross-reference. You get to prove here that you did pay it, and you can go see the individual side and see that you have paid it as well. So it's like a bit of a double up, and it has helped a lot of clients. Have told us that was really nice that was included. Now, I wanted to show you one more little thing before my time runs out. No, my time's up. Okay, I'm going to jump out of this. I'm going to come back into another quick segment for the accounts payable.